Hello my dear students, welcome to computer science class. Let us continue with our chapter, that is control statements. In our previous video we have already seen the simple if statement and its program, and we have also started with the topic that is if else statement, and few of the programs also we have discussed. Now before we proceed with the two more programs which are left out under the if else statements, let us have a glance on what is this if else statements and when to use this if else statement. As we know that this if else statement is called as the two-way branching statement. So when we are going to use this if else statement, when we have any alternative statements to be executed based upon the condition, okay, if the condition is true, a set of statement will be executed. If a condition is false, another set of statement will be executed. As we know, the syntax of the simple if statement is this way. So if this given condition is true, statement 1 is executed, else the statement 2. So this is the following syntax of the if else statement. So this is the rhombus, that is a decision making symbol which is used in the flowchart, and if this is condition, if it is true, then statement 1, else the statement 2 will be executed. Remember, in if else statement, never both the statements will be executed. Depending upon the given condition, either of the true or either the false statement will be executed. Now moving on to the programs here, I think we have already discussed whether the shape is square or no. This program we have discussed. I think we need to discuss about the leap year. So what exactly the leap year is? So every leap year we are getting the February month as 29. Usually we will be having the number of days in February as 28. Okay, so here in case of leap year we'll be having the like 366 days we will be having, and this leap year usually comes after every 4 years it will be coming. So this leap year, in the sense what we shall see here, this is the program wherein we are finding out whether the given year is leap year or not, wherein the leap year is nothing but in that year total number of days will be 366. Now as you know, these are the header files iostream, conio.h and iomanup.h we are using, and then the main function. And what should be the input? Obviously it should be an year, and its data type should be of type integer. Then cout, enter the year. That means we are asking the user to enter the year, and then he might enter the year here. Now the condition what to find out the leap year is, if that given year should be divisible by 4. That means this is modulus operator. When modulus operators you perform, okay, that is division, its a remainder should be equals to, and it's a logical and that same year shouldn't be completely divisible by 0. This is not equals to. That means the given year, okay, when you do the modulus operator, should not equals to, this is not equals to relational operator, am I right? So it should not equal to be 0. This is one condition. This is AND operator. What is logical AND says? So logical AND says both the condition it should satisfy. Or this is OR symbol, isn't it? This is logical OR. We have already studied this in introduction to C++, these operators. Okay, so or the given year should be completely divisible by 4 and its remainder should be equals to 0. So this is actually the complete condition to find out the year is leap year or not. See, that means what? Here the given year should be completely divisible by 4, where the remainder should be equals to 0, plus what the year, the same year shouldn't be divisible by 100. Okay, that should not be equal to 0, that is remainder, and or the given year should be completely divisible by 400. If so, if this condition has been true, then I am printing the year is leap year, else I am printing it's not a leap year. Now let us take an example of 2012. Let me take the example here as 2012. When you divide it by 4, it is completely divisible by 4. Okay, wherein the remainder is equals to 0. But the same thing you see when we are dividing the 2012 by 100. Okay, here 201.12 it is coming. Okay, so this is not completely, that is not completely divisible by 0, isn't it? That the modulus operator, when you perform, it is not divisible by 0. So here it is what, why you may say after taking 12 it is completely, but what is the data type we are taking? We are considering it as an integer. Integer will never take the fractional part. Okay, it takes only 201. It will take 201. When you do it, it is not a completely divisible by it, isn't it? So therefore I can say 2012. Now this condition it is satisfying, and this condition also, where 2012 is not completely divisible by the 100. So therefore I can say 2012 is a, it's a leap year. It is completely divisible by 4, plus it is not divisible by 100. Therefore I can say it is a leap year. Now this is an or condition. Or in the sense, either this one can be true, either this it should satisfy, or it should satisfy this. But whereas in case of AND operator, here this is one, it should satisfy this condition plus this condition. Understood? Then one more year we have taking, that is the 1900. Okay, 1900, actually they say that centennial years are not the leap years. Centennial years in the sense, centennial in the sense a period of 100 years. A period of 100 years, like for example 1900, 1800, okay, 2000. So usually centennial years are said to they are not said to be as leap year, but for them also there is an exceptional. Any centennial year, if they are completely divisible by 400, then I can say such years are also be said to be as leap years. Actually earlier only this was the formula, with the year divisible by 4 and the year that is not divisible by 100 is said to be as leap year. But there is an exceptional, that there are certain centennial years, if those such years, if they are completely divisible, if though they are doesn't satisfying these two conditions, but if they are satisfying completely divisible by 400, then such years, then such centennial years can be said as leap year. One of the example here is, okay, we can say as a 1900. Okay, so you can see here 1900, you see are this one 1900 divided by 4, yes, it is completely divisible by 4 if you are seeing here. Understood? That is integer part only we are getting. You can see here 1900 is a centennial year, which is again completely divisible by, it's 100. That means actually as per this rule it shouldn't be divisible by 100. Okay, but it is divisible by 100 completely. Therefore I can say that this 1900 is not a leap year. Understood? See, and condition, it is satisfying this condition, plus it should also satisfy this condition, wherein the 1900 shouldn't be completely divisible by 100. That means the remainder shouldn't be not equal to 0, but here if you are observing, the remainder is completely 0. Therefore I can say this 1900 is not at all a leap year. I hope you are able to understand. But we can say that 2000 is a leap year. 2000 is again and one centennial year only, children. Correct or no? So that 2000 is a centennial year, but 2000 can be completely divisible by 400. It is satisfying this condition. Therefore I can say 2000 is a leap year. I hope you are able to understand. Okay, now let me explain this one with an example here, programming example. I'll execute and show you. So this is a leap year program wherein I have written. So here again I'll just say whatever the year you are giving should be completely divisible by 4. That means that remainder should be equal to 0. Plus this is AND operator. It should satisfy both. And the same year when you are dividing by 100, that remainder should not be equal to 0. So this is one complete condition. Or the year when you are dividing by 400 should be completely divisible by 0. So usually centennial years are said to be as not at all a leap year. For an example, 1900, 1800, they are not completely they are not at all the leap years, but there is an exceptional for centennial years like 2000. So why it is so? Because 2000 is completely divisible by 400, whose remainder is equal to 0. Such centennial years we can say it is a leap year. Okay, now I'll execute and show you. So first compile, so 0 errors are there, and then I'll just run the code. I can show you here 1900 input I'll give here, and then press enter. See, it's not a leap year. Similarly, I can give one more output. I'll just run and show for you all. That's what I was telling about the centennial year 2000. 2000 because it's a period of 100 years, isn't it? So I can see it's a leap year. Apart from this also you can give. So leap year usually occurs after every 4 years we are having the leap years. So I can check the 1996, you can check here. See, it's a leap year. How I am getting that it is a leap year? It's all because of the given condition. Understood? Okay. Moving on to the next program, children. That is to determine. Yeah. Coming back to the next program here. Yeah. To determine whether the input character is a lowercase or the uppercase. I think this one we have also seen in the C type .h when we were discussing in the introduction to C++. Okay, now here 3 header files I have included: IOStream for cout and cin, conio.h for the clear screen and get ch, IO manipus of the Intel. Then here what is the question is, program is to check the input character is a lowercase or uppercase. Definitely I should take a variable of data type, that is character, then clear screen, then cout. I am asking the user to enter the character, and whatever the character they are entering, I am storing in a variable, I am reading it in a variable known as a ch. Now I am just checking if that given character, if it is greater than or equal to capital A, and if the given character is less than or equal to this capital Z. If so, then I should print that it is a uppercase, else I should print it as a lowercase. Now, usually as we know that characters, whenever we are typing from the keyboard, it will be converted in the ASCII values. As we know, the ASCII value of capital A starts from 65 and B 66, still so on. Then the small a will start with the ASCII value with 97 and ends with the small z as 122. Suppose, okay, now this is not 66, it is B actually, this is not 66. So whenever you enter any of the character between the ASCII value of this 65 and the ASCII value of this capital Z, so that, now for example, when I enter the character B, if I am entering the character as B as input, then isn't it follows between the range of ASCII value of capital A 65 plus 26 you can do, plus 25 if you do, you will get an ASCII value of Z. So that B value 66 falls within this particular range. So here it might be 97, means here it might be around 96, somewhere the capital Z would be. So it will fall within this particular range, therefore it will consider it as an uppercase. Suppose if I entering the input character as small b, okay, smaller k, lowercase b, if I give the input here as, definitely its range is what, that is small b is 99 ASCII value. So isn't it 65 and 96? So it is out of the range of that particular ASCII value, isn't it? So therefore definitely it will not consider this as true part. Definitely the control will execute the false part, that is it is entered character would be the lowercase. I hope you are able to understand. Now I have entered the given character here as capital G I have given, and the ASCII value of capital G would definitely will be in between the ASCII value between the 65 and 96. So if that ASCII value falls within this particular range, definitely it will be as uppercase. If it is the entered character, if I am giving as lowercase g here, its ASCII value will be above this particular range. So therefore it will considered as a lowercase. So therefore this if else statement is providing me the possibility, it is providing me the alternative statements. If true, based upon this condition, if it is true, then the true statement of the statement will be executed, else the control will jump to the false part of the statement will be executed. You may consider it as a true statement, false statement, or you may consider it as a statement 1 or statement 2. Okay, so but whereas in case of simple if true statement was, if the condition satisfying, only the true part of the statement was executing and then the control would jump to the next statement. Here in case of if else, why we are using this if else? Whenever we have an alternative statements to execute. One more example I can give. If age is greater than 18, then see out, that is print see out he is eligible to vote, else he is not eligible to vote. Whenever you are entering any age, like if you are entering as 12, then definitely based upon the condition it will execute the true part of the statement, else it will execute the false part, that is it is not eligible to vote. That statement will be executed. I hope children you are able to understand. Now let me execute the program and show you. Here I have already executed it, and just one I'll just yeah, see, this is the program. This is capital A. When you remember, always these character is the one that has been represented in under the single quotes. Am I right? It represents single character which are enclosed under the single quotes. Now let me compile it, 0 errors, and then just I'll run the code. Now enter the character. Let me give the capital R. I'll give. So when I press enter, see it's giving me as it is in uppercase. Similarly, one more, I'll just run the code for the one more output. So now this time let me give the lowercase r and let's execute. See, it's giving me as it is a lowercase character. So this is how exactly you can use the if else statement in the for the different purposes. Okay, now let us move on to the next topic, that is nested if. Very important from the exam point of view. The nested if statement is nothing but it contains an if statement within another if statement. Usually this nested if statement is having two formats. Okay, that is the if else if format we are having, and then we are having one more format we are having here, that is the if else statement. Okay, now here I'll show you. The first format is if else if statement, which is also called an else if ladder we can call. So why we call it as an else if ladder, I'll tell you. So usually this structure provides us a variety of ranges of statements to be executed. Now look at the statement syntax and the flowchart. So we can call this if else if statement as an else if ladder because it is consisting of, look at here, if this condition satisfied, then the statement 1 will be executed. If this condition fails, the control comes to the else part, and then one more condition will be checked. If this condition satisfying, the statement 2 executes, else again if condition 3 will be executed, will be checked for. If that condition satisfies, so statement 3, else up to same way it will continue. Suppose if there no match has been found, if any of the condition doesn't satisfies, if any of these given condition, then definitely the control will jump to the default statement. Okay, so therefore this if else if statement will provide you the range of values to verify. It will provide you range of values, and it will provide you the different possible alternative statements to be executed based upon the condition. Here we have to make the choice has to be made between more than two possibilities. So as per this, how many conditions? 1, 2, up to n conditions. That means you can make the choices based upon this n condition. So any of these conditions are not satisfying, then the control will directly jumps to the default statement and the default statement will be executed. Okay, Now this statement, if else if statement, is usually called as an else if ladder. You can see this if statement is consisting of another if statement. Within this if statement we are consisting of another if, like this. Therefore, what is nested if statement? Nested if statement is it is a statement which consists an if statement within an another if statement. It consists an if statement within an another if statement is said to be as an nested if statement. So this syntax you will able to understand only with the programming example. So how this if else will be written. Similarly, as per this general syntax, so this is instead of if usually we represent it in the form of flowchart as a is condition. If is condition, if it is true, which statement is executed? Remember, always the very soon after the if condition, whatever the statement is given, that is considered as a true part of this particular condition. Understood? So if this condition 1 is true, then the statement 1 is executed. What happens when the false part? False part means definitely else part of the statement will be executed. What is there in else part? There is an another if statement. There is an another if statement. So what is the definition of nested if? So the if statement consists within an another if statement. It contains if statement within an another if statement is said to be as nested if. So again, as per this, so is condition 2. If so, what is true statement? Statement 2 will be executed. Else false. Again it will check for if is condition n, it will check. If so, if it is true, the statement n is executed. Else what happens? Default statement will be executed. This is how the working of the if else if statement will be there, and which is also called as an else if ladder. Understood? Now let me explain this one with an example. So this is the explanation what you have to write in the examination. Usually for 5 marks they will be asking explain if else if statement. So when they ask you explain if else if statement, you need to write all these points. It is called as if else if ladder. Why we need to use the if else if statement. See, when we have more than 2 possibilities to execute, then go for the if else if statements. But when you have 2 possibilities to execute, then it is if else statement. When you have only true part of the statement to be executed, then you have to choose the simple if statements to execute. So for the different kinds of situations, depending upon the needs of the program, you have to choose the different selection statement. Now let me explain this one with a simple example, programming example. So here is a program to find the grade of the student. Now look at the program. I think these header files I need not to say. You know why IOStream, Conio and IOMANUP.h has been used. Then coming to the main function. So here to find the grade of the students, we need the input as a marks, isn't it? So therefore I'll take the marks in terms of integer, clear screen, Cout. We are asking the user to enter the marks. So C in marks. Okay. Now how do we write the programs here? First if condition it is. If marks is greater than or equals to 85, this is my given condition. Okay, if marks is greater than or equal to 85 and marks is less than or equal to 100, if this condition is true, then statement 1. What is there in statement 1? Cout distinction. That means I want to print as a distinction. Else if marks is greater than 60. This is my second possibility, isn't it? If marks is greater than 60, what it is? This is second condition. Therefore, what should be there in the true part of the statement 2? What is there in statement 2? Print first class. Again, else if marks is greater than or equal to 50. This is condition. I can give 3. So if it is true, statement 3 will be executed. That is what it should be print. Cout second class. Isn't it? Else if one more we are having, it is condition n we may take, isn't it? If marks is greater than or equal to 35, print pass class. Even if the condition n is also not satisfying, then the control goes to the default statement. So as per this program, what is my default statement? That is fail. If the given marks doesn't fall in any of these ranges, therefore the control will directly jump to the default statement, that is fail. Now let us explain you with an example. Now let us consider the entered marks as 85. Let me consider the entered marks as 85. So first statement, first condition only it will come. If what is there in the marks 85, whether 85 is greater than or equal to 85, yes, okay, and whether that 85 is less than or equal to 100, yes. See, whenever there is an AND operation, it should satisfy this condition, it should satisfy this condition, then only a logical AND will be satisfying. Understood? Then only this condition is satisfied, we can assume. So here 85 is greater than or equals to it is. Okay, so either of the one is correct here, equals to at least. So or I am specifying 85 is greater than or equals to 85. This condition satisfy, and here 85 is less than 100. Yes, this also condition. Since this condition is true, therefore the statement 1 will be executed. Remember. So once this statement 1 is executed, so it will never go to the false part of the statement. This is all the false part of, this is the false part of this if condition. So once the condition is satisfying, only the true part of the statement will be executed. If this condition was not satisfying, then only the control jumps to the false part. It will never execute both. Remember, look at the flow chart. Depending upon the condition, either true part or the false part of the statement will be executed. Understood? So therefore, so the control will never come to here. Instead, the control jumps to the, that is get ch and then the closing bracket. It will not even execute the default statement. Once the condition is matching somewhere here, it will not execute the default. Only when any of the condition doesn't satisfy, then only it will execute the default statement. Now let us assume the marks, entered marks to be as 20 children here. Okay, 20 we'll assume. Whether 20 is greater than or equal to 85? No. Condition fails. This also you can check. Whether 20 is less than or equal to 100? Yes, this condition satisfies. But what operator we are using? Logical AND we are using. It should satisfy both. Correct? No? So this is not, condition is not satisfying. So statement 1 will never execute because this is a true part. So this condition is not satisfying means definitely this is a false condition. So therefore the control where it jumps, it comes to the false part of the statement. Now when it comes here, it encounters one more condition, that is if. Now check again. Whether 20 is greater than or equal to 60. Here again the condition is false. Then if condition is false, obviously false part of the statement will be there in else part, isn't it? So if this was satisfying, therefore if this condition was true, then this statement would have been executed. Here the condition is false, so this statement will be skipped. I have marked it wrong in the sense this particular statement is skipped. In fact, the control jumps to where it will jumps to the else part of the statement. When it finds the else part, it finds one more if statement there. Whether 20 is again greater than or equal to 50? No, the condition is false. Therefore, again the control jumps to the false part of the statement, that is from here, from this part to the false part of the statement will be executed. You see, whether 20 is greater than or equal to 35, here also the condition is false. Now, any of the if condition doesn't satisfy, therefore, again it will jump to the default statement. Understood? If I had given the marks here as, like 36 if I had given 36 is greater than or equal to 35, here the condition would satisfy. Therefore, I would have printed the true part of that particular statement as pass class. But here my marks is what? 20. 20 is greater than or equal to 35, condition is false. So where it should go? It should go to the else part of the, that is false part of this particular if condition. When it comes to the false part, there is a default statement as cout fail. We are not checking any condition, so there is a default statement as print fail. Therefore, when you enter 20, I will get the output I'll get the as fail. Suppose I have entered the marks as 66. I have given the marks as 66. First it will come whether 66 is greater than 85. No, the condition false. Whether 66 is less than 100, yes, the condition is true, but since it is and, it will never execute the true part of the statement. Correct? In fact, the control comes to the false part of the statement, wherein there is one more if statement. So 66, I said, whether 66 is greater than or equal to 60, yes, the condition is true. If so, the true statement will be executed, that is as first class. See, any one condition, if it is satisfying, okay, control will never go to the default. Control will not jump here. Control would jump here only when this if condition would fail. Since the condition has been satisfying, the true part of the statement is executed. After that, directly the control comes to the get ch. It comes out of this else if ladder and the control goes to the next statement, that is get ch. That's what I can show you here. See, only when any of the condition doesn't satisfy, false part means default it will execute and the control goes to this. Suppose if condition 2 is satisfying, then it will execute the statement 2 as true part, and where the control goes, control will never come here. Control, in fact, it joins here, and this arrow indicates it is going to the next statement. I hope you are able to understand. Now let me execute this program and show you all. Okay. I'll just open the program here. Yeah, this is the program. See, the same program I have written. Okay, the default is fail. Let me execute, compile, 0 errors. Let me run. Now enter the marks. Now let me give the marks as 90. When I give the marks as 90, what answer I should get? It should be distinction. Correct? So I'll take one more output. Run. Let me enter the marks as 45. What I should get when it's a 45. Let's see here. It's pass class, because the marks which are being, that is greater than 35, greater than or equal to 35, it's a pass class, isn't it? Now let me show you how fail works. Now let me enter the marks as 18. I'll enter. Okay, and then enter. See, fail we got. So this is how the else if ladder, it is providing us more than two possibilities. Then you can go for the if else if ladder. Now can you see this? If else if we are having it continuous. So we have if statement within another if statement. This concept is nothing but the nested if. So here in nested if we have two formats. One is this format, and one more we have as the nested if else statement, that we shall discuss in the next video. I hope students, you are able to understand how to trace the program and how I am executing the programs and how to give the input and output. I hope you're finding the programs interesting. So in our next video classes, we shall discuss the further topics. Thank you. Till then, take care.